depend on the development of new insights into the functioning of nature and on the technologies that follow from them. Cities wouldn't exist, for example, if someone long ago hadn't figured out that you can plant crops and domesticate animals to supply food. In the same way, the steam engine, the automobile, and the computer have shaped our cities in ways that transcend the dictates of custom, established economic hierarchies, and international borders. Social constraints may have profound effects on cities in the short term, but in the long run, the changes that matter most are driven by science and technology. Let me cite just one example to back up my claim. There is a reason why the most opulent Renaissance or Baroque palaces were only a few stories high, why the tallest spire on a Gothic cathedral reached only a few hundred feet into the air. There is a reason why quite ordinary apartment blocks and office buildings, constructed on modest budgets, are much taller today. The reason has to do with the kinds of materials that make up each kind of building, and ultimately with the ways individual atoms lock together to give those materials their strength. The desire to put up a tall building may depend on social and economic factors, but the ability to do so depends on the science and technology available to the builders. The kinds of cities we build depend on our understanding of the natural world, what we call science, and on our ability to turn that understanding to our own ends, what we call technology. If I were writing this book in 1794 instead of 1994, there would be many social and economic issues affecting the size and shape of the cities of the day, the growth of mercantilism, the opening of America to Europeans, the rise of capitalism, and so on. Yet it's clear that the single most important agent of change in that world was the steam engine. It powered the factories, drove the railroads, and provided the means for the eventual electrification of entire continents. There was poverty in 1794, and there is poverty today, but the cities have changed almost beyond belief. It is on this sort of deep change that I want to concentrate. There are advantages, bonuses, if you will, to looking at cities through the eyes of science. If you can see the history of the technological threads that have been woven together to make cities what they are, then you already have come a long way toward seeing where they are going. At the very least, you can identify new or continuing threads of technologies that will strongly influence the cities of the future. But although I would argue that the general form that cities take is shaped by our scientific understanding, I would not go so far as to say that technology, in and of itself, determines how cities will develop. Instead, technology sets the limits on what cities can be, defines the general directions in which they will grow. In the language of the engineer, technology defines the envelope inside of which cities can develop. I will argue that we have reached a crucial stage in the development of cities because for the first time in history we are approaching an era in which there really are no more technological limits on the kinds of cities we build. We can build anything we want, provided, of course, we know what that is. I want you to see modern cities, then, as products of a series of discoveries about the physical universe. In particular, I will look at 3 of these discoveries, each of which has irreversibly altered the kinds of cities we live in, and will continue to shape the cities of the future. The ability to manipulate atoms. You can't build a city without materials, and you can't make new materials unless you learn how to put atoms together in new and useful ways. In the 19th century, the availability of cheap structural steel altered the kinds of structures we could build. Without it, there would be no high-rise buildings or skyscrapers, no bridges or subways. The ability to unlock stored energy. Until the late 18th century, virtually all energy